All right, welcome everyone to Kindergarten Information Night. I'm so glad to see so many of you here to learn about what kindergarten registration and the kindergarten experience are going to be like for your children starting in the fall. My name is Erica Pollard. I'm the Interim Executive Director for Curriculum and Instruction for the Hingham Public Schools. And I am joined here tonight by a host of principals and assistant principals and administrators who are going to talk us through this process, hopefully answer any questions that you have, and leave you feeling good about kindergarten. We're going to talk through tonight the kindergarten registration process and timeline, how you get the paperwork, what paperwork you need, what you do with it once you've filled it out. We'll give you an overview of what kindergarten looks like. We'll talk about our Kids in Action program that provides before and after school care, and then we'll have some time at the end for questions. How's that sound? All right, we're going to start by introducing our elementary school teams.
Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan Haas. I'm the principal at East Elementary. This is my team here. That's me with hair. It's an outdated picture. Just below is our assistant principal, Dr. Amanda Donovan, and our kindergarten educators, Miss Emily Day, Miss Katie Kilmaine, and Jackie McHugh.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Matt Shifley. I'm the proud principal of Foster Elementary School. I am only going to be here for a minute or two because the building committee is meeting as well, and I have a little bit of a project to go talk about with them. So I do appreciate you all coming tonight. We're very excited to be here. My vice principal, Mrs. Newell, is here in the audience as a parent tonight. So she has a 5-year-old coming into kindergarten. We're very excited about that. Our teachers on our kindergarten team are Miss Rapson, Mrs. Papone, and Mrs. McGuire.
So I'm going to do this without a mic and use my teacher voice. I'm Mr. Lamont, principal at Plymouth River Elementary School. Our assistant principal is Ms. Smith. And then our kindergarten teachers are Mrs. O'Brien, Mrs. Mesher, and Mrs. Bradley.
And good evening, everyone. It was so nice being able to meet some of you out that are coming to South Elementary next year. So my name is Tara Boning, principal at South Elementary. Ms. Driscoll was out there, right there in the back. She's here with us this evening. And we have 4 fabulous kindergarten teachers. We have Lakshmi Hobson, who's actually here with us this evening as kindergarten liaison. We have Ms. Sydney Nuttall. We have, on the bottom left, Mrs. Patricia DeMartinez. And top left, we have Mrs. Trifoni, who is actually on leave this year. So if you do know a kindergartner currently, they are in Ms. Keefe's class. So I didn't want to cause any confusion with that.
All right, so this next slide gives an overview of the registration timeline. Obviously, the registration process starts here and now at the Hingham Middle School auditorium. And the registration packets will be available online starting 6 minutes ago. They should have gone live on the website. You can go to hinghamschools.org/kindergarten and download a packet. Or if you don't have a printer or don't want to print, you can go to your child's school and pick up a packet on paper. It is, if you can, fill the PDF in. They're all fillable PDFs. So if you can do it digitally, that's a little bit easier for us, but we'll work with whatever you give us. Those completed forms are going to get to us between February 3rd and February 14th. And then in May, we will have our kindergarten orientation, screening, and school visits, where you and your child will get a chance to visit the schools and learn a little bit more about kindergarten, do those vision and hearing screenings, and make sure everybody's ready to go. I'm going to talk through this registration packet in a little more detail because there's a lot in it. Ideally, we would love for you to go to our website and download the registration packet. As I mentioned, they're fillable PDFs, so you should be able to fill them by typing. And if you can't or don't want to, you can print them and complete them by hand or pick up a pre-printed copy at your child's school. In terms of required documentation to register for kindergarten, we will need to see copies of a birth certificate so we can verify the child's age, current immunizations and physical records, and proof of residency. As you can see, there's lots of different ways that you can verify residency. That helps us to know that we're registering you at the right school. Once all that paperwork is filled out, you are going to go and fill out a facts management account. You'll see that link right there. And again, it'll be in this presentation when I mail it to you. If your child is registering for full day kindergarten, that's where you will submit the registration fee, the deposit to complete registration. If your child is only planning on attending for half day kindergarten, you do not need to set up an account because there is no tuition for half day kindergarten. Once you've done all that, you can email the completed packet and scanned documents to your building's administrative assistant. We'll have all that information a little bit later in this presentation. Or you can bring the packet and those documents directly to your child's school and work with the administrative assistant there who will help you finish up registration. If you are signing up for full day kindergarten, just remember please that registration is not final until you have gone through and set up that facts account and paid the deposit. As I mentioned, we have two options here for kindergarten. The half-day program is free of charge, and the full-day program, the school committee has finalized their rate at $2,950. If necessary, there is confidential tuition assistance available. There's a sliding scale, and all you need to do is make a request in writing to the superintendent of schools, Katie Roberts, who is hiding out at the back of the auditorium right now and might wave at you. And she can help you out with tuition assistance if that's necessary. If we have any families who are considering delaying enrollment in kindergarten, please reach out to your school's principal, who will guide you through that process. They'll want to talk through what your reasons might be for wanting to defer kindergarten for a year. One of the frequently asked questions that we get about kindergarten is, who's going to be in the classroom with my kid? You saw all of our lovely kindergarten teachers on the presentation a minute ago. In addition to that teacher, we have one general education paraprofessional in each classroom, so there'll be another adult with the teacher and the children in the room. The sections are based obviously on the number of students that enroll in each school, so they vary a little bit from year to year, but they generally are between 16 and 23 students per classroom. And now we're going to hear a little bit about what a typical day looks like for a kindergarten student.
Hi everyone, how's everyone doing tonight? Good. Are you excited to start kindergarten and the journey? It's quite the journey. You're going to love it. So I'm going to go through a typical schedule in kindergarten. This is a general overview. I'm sure you're all wondering what happens all day. What does my child do all day? At this age, they're not very eloquent and they don't come home and say, I did A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. You know, they don't tell you a list of what they did. So we want to make it very clear and give you a general overview of what they do. So we do arrival routines when they come in. We move into ELA and writing. And when I talk about ELA and writing, it's not to overwhelm you and make you think we have them start writing from the get-go. Kindergarten writing is drawing. It's taking them from wherever they are and having them progress forward. They're all on their individual path, so don't be scared about writing. There's tiered reading instruction that's integrated within the ELA framework. And after all of that fun stuff, we go into snack and recess in the morning. We ask that you send in 2 nut-free snacks every day, and preferably if you can label them. As a kindergarten teacher, I always appreciate that because it's very clear what's a morning snack and an afternoon snack for them. We have recess in the morning, which is awesome, get their energy out, and then we move into math, and we also have tiered math instruction. Similar to tiered reading instruction, we're working on the skills and the skill set that they have at that time and building upon that. So again, taking them from where they are and then moving them along in the curriculum. And all of these components of the curriculum are very hands-on. We're giving them a multi-sensory approach to learning, and supporting them wherever best possible. Lunchtime is in the cafeteria, which is very exciting for many kindergartners. Many kids now buy lunch and get their lunch, and they love moving through the lunch line. We have great offerings by the cafeteria. We also have a specialist that they go to every day, and they will go to computer class sometimes, they'll go to gym, they'll go to art, they'll go to Spanish, they'll go to library, music, so they love special time. Snack and recess again in the afternoon, which is great. They need that little break and that socialization time too. So that's really nice to have another opportunity to socialize and have a snack. Buddy centers we integrate the curriculum, academic piece of the curriculum into buddy centers as well. So math and ELA are practiced at that time, as well as using their imaginations and being creative and socializing with their peers. We then also have science and social studies, and other staff members will talk more in depth about those areas. But in kindergarten, it's very hands-on, like I said, where we're really thinking about what we're seeing outside, going out there, touching the snow, measuring the snow, watching it melt right now, and doing lots of hands-on activities. Social studies is a lot of getting to know me, getting to know each other, opening our hearts and minds to people of all differences, and really exposing them to as much as we can in the world around us. Dismissal routines, arrival and dismissal routines, we try to, we start by giving them tons of support in the beginning of the year because we want them to build that confidence. And I kid you not, by the end of the year, they're zipping coats, they're tying their shoes, each other's shoes. It's incredible. Mrs. Riley will attest to that, I'm sure, as a kindergarten teacher too. That basically is a typical schedule. We have special events here and there sprinkled around by our wonderful cultural committee group of parents that schedule things for us too throughout the day, which is amazing.
So we just talked about arrival and dismissal, but what comes right before arrival and right before dismissal is also an important, right after dismissal is obviously a really important part of a child's day as well. The routes for our buses do change a little bit from year to year depending on an enrollment. If you want to get a sense of what our current bus routes look like, they're on the website, and then you'll be able to check back in the summer once those are updated for the coming school year. I feel like we should have done this before and introduced you, but we have two really great kindergarten liaisons who are the experts in all things kindergarten and have been amazingly helpful as I learn how to navigate the kindergarten registration process, because this is also my first time. So Mrs. Hobson and Mrs. Riley are here to guide us along the way.
Hi, everyone. So as Mrs. Hobson said, we do have a specialist that students will visit each day. Depending on your school, it might be in the morning, it might be in the afternoon. Our specialist is in the afternoon. Kindergarten teachers like to be very organized. So typically what we'll do is we send you a schedule so you'll know what specialist you have on what day. And something that you'll get used to very quickly is that we run on a 6-day schedule. So as opposed to going Monday to Friday, we have day 1, day 2, day 3. And that's to allot for our specialists. So we have music, art, Spanish, computer science, gym, and library. And these are great times where our students are getting to work with a different teacher. They're getting to travel through the school and get used to other areas of our building. We work collaboratively with the specialists as well, so that if there are specific concepts that we're working on in the classroom that we want to try to connect with a different content area, we work very collaboratively with them on that. And they're always very supportive when we come up with like crazy ideas about doing obstacle courses in the gym for math class. They love that. So really finding ways that we can integrate all of our content area into more arts as well. Yeah.
So, as our colleagues had said, one of the core curriculum areas that your student will experience each day in kindergarten is English language arts, or their reading block. And during their reading block, your student will utilize the same materials as their grades 1 through 5 peers. Our reading program is the Into Reading program, which is, again, designed to be a K-5 reading program. So even though some of your students may not be readers, they will engage in similar activities as their grade 1 through 5 peers will, where they'll be reading stories, they'll be responding to text in ways that they can, whether that's writing or reading or having a conversation about the text. They'll be looking at other data, of course, beyond their connection with text, which is your students' phonological awareness. We'll track and make sure that they are showing growth in their letter and sound recognition over the course of the year. A huge component is, of course, that letter recognition, getting to write the letters. They will take writing letters into the areas of writing words, and then writing words into the area of writing sentences. And it'll be wonderful for you to see that progression over the course of the year. We'll focus on word recognition. You see up there high frequency words, so words that they should immediately recognize and words that are not necessarily sounded out by their letter and sound recognition. We'll also be engaging your kiddos in some journal writing. Sometimes at the outset of the year, your journal writing might just look like drawing pictures, but as they begin to master those letters, begin to master those high frequency words, you'll see those pictures as they enter Monday and talk about their weekend, start to have some letters and words connected to them. So they will, in fact, be journal writing, just as their grade 1 through 5 peers are. Even if that sounds a little bit heavy and a little bit heavy on the language, the reading, and the writing, I can promise you that your kindergarten educators lead your kids through it in a way that is fun and engaging. They do lots of hands-on activities with those letters and with the writing process. It's a really fun thing to see, especially, again, their progression over the course of the year is really going to impress you.
As Jonathan just mentioned, our reading program here in the Hingham Public Schools is called Into Reading, and it is a research-based program that's going to really allow your children to build reading and writing skills step by step by step. So they will start, obviously they start with the letters, they start with the sounds, and over time they're really going to develop fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension over the course of the year. I have had the chance during the couple of months that I've had this job so far to see some of this Into Reading in action in classrooms, and the way that teachers engage with this and really are able to dial in on exactly what every kid needs is really, really impressive. They get to know these students incredibly well and provide them with learning experiences that are going to move them forward.
So I have the next one. I'm going to do it with principal's voice from way back here. So for math, daily routines. Some of those daily routines that they may see is as we're going through the year, they say like, today is the second day of school. What's one more before the second day of school? What's one less after the second day of school? As we get further along and students are learning math and learning their numbers, they may go, what's 10 more? What's 10 less? So those are just some routines to start to get them to realize and see the differences of tens, the differences of fives. They sort of look at those pieces. A lot of the math is activity-based, hands-on. As you hear from most of us, we're really hands-on activity-based. It's not sit, right, sit, right, sit, right. It really is. We want kids to be learning and having fun and moving around. We know that they're a very young age and you can't sit for a long time, and we want them to enjoy schooling at a very young age. And some other things that they do for exposure to math skills, counting and estimating. During the month of October, like they'll cut open a pumpkin and they'll estimate how many seeds are in that pumpkin, and then they'll count how many seeds are in that pumpkin. So it allows them to sort of do things along that's happening within the season as well. Reading and writing numbers, exploring addition and subtraction. They'll do some measurement, prediction, weight, length, and temperature. And then they'll also start looking at shapes, patterns, and graphs at the age-appropriate level to which they're at. Also talking for science, they talk about seasons, weather, force and motion, and life cycles. And I said at the beginning in math, they talk about daily routines. Part of the daily routines is also, they may have a student go to the window and say, what does it look like outside? Oh, it's sunny. Does it look windy? Is it cold when you came in? So sort of start getting that language into play to bring in the seasons, to bring in the weather, and then they'll do some force and motion, and then life cycles. So, you know, they'll grow from seeds, a little plant, and things like that for the science area.
So for social studies, it is a great time in the kindergarten classrooms with social studies, because that big question that we're sort of asking ourselves at that level is, what are the roles when we're living and we're working and we're in a community together? And kindergarten is such a great entry point for that, because they are establishing classroom routines. They're thinking about themselves as an individual. How does that pertain to my community of learners around me? Setting those expectations, and how that sort of engages your civic side. So of course, the language that we're using with them is not civics education, but we're sort of bringing them to that point of like, who am I as an individual, and how do I work as a member of this community? And as Ms. Hobsbawm had said earlier, also we're thinking about, there's an All About Me where we have family stuff, we're looking at traditions, we're thinking about how our family is tied in with all of the families that are in our classroom. Also in social studies in kindergarten, we start looking at geography and exploring the world around us and just looking at those basic map skills. So how do maps, how do globes, how do photographs show different things about different places? Tied in with social studies, on the next slide, thinking about that community piece, is our social emotional learning. So it's giving the students the skills for them to sort of be pro-social. How do we build their capacity to be an active member of their classroom and also have resiliency, be empathetic, have those tools with them? One of the big things that we focus on in all of the elementary schools is the Toolbox Project. So it's 12 tools that are explicitly taught throughout the school year that students, we go through the tools in the classroom. One of the examples is the breathing tool. So the breathing tool is connected with a little picture. It's a measuring tape. And if a student is feeling maybe a little bit anxious, we teach them that they could use their breathing tool. They picture a measuring tape. They take a couple of deep breaths in. So that might be a focus for a couple of weeks where we're really going over using that breathing tool. When would be the right time for this? From there, we'd move into the next tool, quiet, safe place. So on and so forth, and these tools actually follow them throughout their elementary school career, which is great because when you get to the older grade, instead of having to explicitly teach it, we can remind a student, be like, hey, think about that. Like that little thought bubble you had, you can just throw it in the garbage can. And they would sort of remember from kindergarten all of that work that we did to sort of promote those toolbox tools. Another thing that we use is positive behavior interventions and supports. It's actually a big thing that we're doing right now at the elementary level during our professional development days, is building the PBIS system that we have in place in the schools. Again, it teaches students those pro-social behaviors, what's expected of them, how that makes others feel around them. And then from there, we have a lot of different things. We want to build students' independence. We want them to be confident. We want them to have the self-regulation tools within them So that way, as they're going through their elementary career and onward, they have the capacity to be able to sort of regulate their emotions and be a good member of not only in their family, but their community and society, and then of course in their classroom.
Hi, I'm Jackie Sansoni, the Director of Kids in Action. It's the before and after school program for the town. I just want to tell you a little bit about us. We have before school and after school. Before school is located at 3 of the schools. It's South Foster and in East, sorry, in East School. And then Plymouth River children, if they're doing before school, will be dropped off at South and then take the bus to Plymouth River School for their regular day. After school is at each of the school buildings, and we are, in all of them. The activities that we have are outside time, gym, arts and crafts, STEM activities, play centers, creative movement, and things like that. Their day is full with lots of activities. Our registration will start on January 31st, and that's for Kids in Action families. And then on February 3rd is registration for all new families. March 3rd, you'll find out if you've been accepted or if you're on the waiting list. There is a registration fee and a deposit, which is also $175, and there's some more information on the website, or feel free to call Kids in Action or email me at jsansoni.
So the most important person to contact if you have questions about kindergarten registration is going to be your building principal. You can see that our emails here, they follow a pretty predictable pattern, but we wanted you to have these email addresses and know who our principals are so that if you have questions after tonight, you'll be able to reach out. The other people that you'll need to talk to are the administrative assistants who are going to be the ones processing those registration packets that we talked about at the beginning. The phone number for each building and the email address for each administrative assistant are right there so that you know who to look for when you go into the buildings.
No, this is me. This is always one of my favorite questions that we get is how to prepare for the first day of school, because it feels very overwhelming, but we're ready for them when they come, so you don't have to worry about it. And really don't worry about all of the academic stuff, because whatever they know when they come to us, we're ready for that, and we look at what each student needs and then how we help them progress with their skills. So don't focus on needing to teach them words and needing to teach them how to write. We do all that. Otherwise, if you did it already, they wouldn't have to come. So simple things that we find really helpful for them to be prepared are checking your supply list for your school. So each kindergarten team has created a list of items that they'll find helpful to have in the classroom. It's things like, finding a pair of comfortable headphones for your students when we're working on, we use a couple iPad programs specifically for math and literacy. So you want to make sure that your headphones are comfortable, that your student knows how to adjust the volume, things that will help them be successful. Again, things that seem silly. There are maybe 23 of them and 2 adults. So you want to send them with things that they can open and close for snack and lunch, because also sometimes when they're sitting so nice and quietly, especially those first few days and we don't know them that well, we might not know that they need help. So we've had this whole period of time around, and then we're cleaning up and someone tells us that they didn't eat their snack. So we also want them to be comfortable and confident asking for help and knowing that that's what what we're there for, is that we're there to help them. So also just letting them know when you go to school, your teacher is going to be there to help you. So if you're stuck or you have any questions, make sure you let them know so that they're comfortable doing that. And on that note as well, when you visit our classrooms, all of our kindergarten classrooms have a bathroom. That's always something they worry a lot about, is where is the bathroom? So we have bathrooms in all of our classrooms. When you visit, you might just want to show them where it is. We always practice turning the light on and off. Again, things that seem silly, but things that make them feel really comfortable when they come to school. We do a lot of work in school, so you want to make sure that your backpack can fit what they have for their work. We send them home with folders. We do a lot of eating. There is a lot of food involved in kindergarten, so you want to make sure those lunch boxes and those snack boxes will fit inside of their backpack. Some of those teeny backpacks are really cute, but they will not be able to carry their lunchbox, their jackets, their boots, all of that stuff. So we want it all to be able to fit. In addition, they're going to be bringing a library book back and forth to school. You want to make sure that that library book can fit, because if it gets lost somewhere, if they drop it on the way in, or if it is left on the bus, those are always things that are very stressful for a student. We can usually fix the problem, but if it fits in the backpack, it's much easier for them. In a fun way, I'm sure everybody is reading to their students at home before you go to bed and things like that. But a nice way to help them prepare is to start talking about it well before they go instead of the night before. So once they're finishing with pre-K and preschool and you're starting the summer, just getting them used to the idea that a change is coming and where are you going. So there's so many books about kindergarten. We always read Miss Bindergarten at PRS on the first day of kindergarten. Just some other books like All Are Welcome. So whoever you are and however you're coming to us, you're going to be welcome when you go to kindergarten. And then some other things that you might just want to think about are books on things like sharing and taking turns. Maybe what's really hard is waiting your turn to talk. So we always love to read Lacey Jane Walker, Nonstop Talker. That's always a fun one. So just helping them get used to those ideas, but in fun ways. So you don't have to lecture them, just like read a fun story before they go to bed. And all of those things will help them get ready to come. And again, don't worry about all of that academic stuff, like knowing how to identify their numbers and knowing every single letter in the alphabet. We're in January doing report cards, and we still have kids that are learning their letters, and that's fine. That's what we're here for, is to help them. But if you have any specific questions on how to prepare for the first day, typically at the end of August, you will hear from your kindergarten teacher. They usually send you a welcome letter. Again, the supply list will come out, and they'll give you a clearer idea for their particular classroom, how to help you get ready. So this is just some basic information. And then again, I know my email and Lakshmi and I, we have a shared email. If you have specific questions, feel free to email us, and we're happy to help you with that transition process as well.
All right. So now we're at the end of our formal presentation, and are there any questions that we can answer for you? We've got lots of kindergarten experts here, so no matter what the question is, one of us will be able to answer it. Might not be me.
Hi, I'm Maria. My son Jake is going to be in kindergarten next year. I just had a question. How much time do they usually spend on iPads versus just interacting with the teacher and the
Yeah. How much time about do they spend on iPads rather than with a teacher?
So typically we use iPads, like I said, for ELA and for math, and we're using specific programs that we follow sort of a curriculum for. So in math, we use a program that's called iReady. At the beginning of the year, the students sit down and they go through a process that helps them find what we call their just right areas. So some of the questions will be too hard for them, some will be super easy, and then we find their just right area. So what we aim for, and Mrs. Hobson, you can help, I know that's one of our centers for math. So students visit that center typically once a week for about 20 minutes. Is that the same for you? So that's a 20-minute period where they're on there for math. And then for ELA, we use a program called Lexia, and it's very similar, where they're focusing on foundational literacy skills. They're working on rhyming. They're working on manipulating sounds. What's your first sound, your middle sound, your last sound? So when they are on an iPad, it's very educational. We're not having them play games or watch videos. There's a purpose, and we track their data. We have data meetings to discuss how they're progressing, and then we also use the data in addition to data collected elsewhere to formulate our groups for instruction so that we're getting data from our observations, we're getting data from their iPads that they're working on. They don't know that we're tracking them, but we are. So that also helps too, because they think they're playing a game, but it's very much at their level. Anything else you want to add?
Yes, all I would add is we're supervising them during that time. It's not like you're like, oh, here's an app, have fun. You know, we're walking around, monitoring. It's usually at a center. I would say about 20 to 30 minutes a week, probably a week max. Because other than if it's more time than that, we know kids and technology these days, so we don't want them on screens.
Yeah. They have plenty of time for that, so we like to give them us while they have us with them.
Hours, the full day is half day, and also for the students that are on half day, how does that transition for them is for those that we course?
I should just leave the microphone.
I was like, we might just want to stay here. So our full day program is whatever your school hours are. It will be, I know for us, we're 8:10 to 2:30, and you are?
We are 8:50 to 3 o'clock. And our half-day program, it ends at 12 o'clock. So they go home at 12 o'clock.
And ours, I believe, is 11:25. They go right before lunch. So again, that's why we try to schedule our day with the majority of their academics in the morning so that everybody's getting the same amount of academics. And then in the afternoon, that's when we do things more like we have specials, buddy centers, things like that. No, we have mixed classrooms. So typically, this year at PRS, we had a student that started out a half dayer, and by day 2, he was a full dayer. He went home and said, I got to be there. So that can happen too. But yes, we have half day students in the same classroom as full day students. I would say over the years, when we first started, we had a much higher rate of students that did half day. Like I said, we haven't had any half day students the past couple years. I'm not sure about.
Either. I would say probably in the last 4 to 5 years, we haven't really had any half-day students.
I don't play. Is there a stern policy of either keeping them together or separating them if you collaborate? Yeah,
That's usually a collaborative discussion because, again, twins are very different ball games. So definitely touch base with your building on what you want to do. Sometimes it's better to keep them together. Sometimes you want them to grow into their own individual people. So you might want to separate them. And we usually have a discussion about that and then support you with whatever you're thinking.
this year we have a few sets, a few, and they're all different. Some of them are and some of them are neighboring platforms. So it's really dependent on whether question or mistake. You need all of the living swap that probably.
Yep, so all of the buildings are now, we have a double entrance policy. So we all have keys that we wear. We're able to buzz into all of the doors. Anybody else that's visiting needs to ring in twice in order to be admitted into the building, and they have to go directly to the office. So the office will greet them, and then many of our classroom doors at Plymouth River, we each have our own safety plans, and then we have a group collaborative safety plan. We have exit doors, we have clipboards, we have whatever we need. But definitely we have a double entrance, so everybody has to ring twice in order to get in. And you also, when you ring, you have to let them know why you're here, and then sign into the office as well, and also sign out so that we know you've left the building. Does that help? Any other safety questions?
And the PRS playground, is it fenced in?
No. No, we have 2 playgrounds. And again, we're supervised at all schools when we're out at recess. There's a lot of kids, but the teacher-student ratio remains, again, appropriate for whoever is outside. And is your playground fenced in?
Yes, the playground at
Yeah.
South is.
And we're at Plymouth River, we're very far from the street. So our playground is farther back from where the tennis courts are. And then we have a back playground as well that's there's no way you could get to from the street, so we don't have any fences on
And
them.
a follow-up, is there any bodies of water by the Plymouth River?
We do have a body of water, not directly. We have a pond that's outside some of the back classrooms. There are trees that border it, but it's not directly connected or right next to the playground. There's like a hill that goes down, and again, students are always supervised. It's not like they're allowed to play in the woods or anything, so we keep students away from it. But actually, they do use the pond for some science lessons, so sometimes kids go down for science lessons, but that's when they're in, like 5th grade, and they're able to, we know that they're not going to fall in. Yeah, we know that they have control of their bodies for the most part. Any follow-up questions from that, or does that help?
I mean, if you have, like my son elopes, so he runs away a lot, would he have one-on-one assistance, do you think?
So those are all questions that we should bring to our building principal. So you're going to want to make sure that you connect with Mr. Lamoth, and those are always helpful things to know so that we can be prepared for your child to be as successful as they can be throughout the day. But absolutely, that's information that we would want to know to make sure that everybody stays as safe as possible. And again, you can't, where there are trees there, it's not like you can see all throughout the year that there's a pond there. It just depends the time of year if you can actually see down into it. But definitely touch base with us for sure.
My question is about drop-off. School starts at 8:10. How soon can you drop off your child?
So for us, 8:10 is our drop-off time. That's when our doors open. Typically, we start teaching and instructing around 8:25, 8:30. But they can come into the building at 8:10.
If your child is an IEP, at what point during the registration process do you start to talk about the transition of the new school?
Yeah, is that that's another thing. Yeah, because I'm thinking that typically we know that information when you're filling out their forms for a registration, but for the specific timeline, that's not something, that's a Mrs. Fabrizio question.
Hi, I'm Charlene Fabrizio. I'm the administrator of elementary special education. So I will also be available to anyone who has a student who has any needs. We do have team chairs who run our special ed departments in each building. If you do have a student who's on an education plan, we would want to know that ahead of time. That would be something that we would first have the principals be notified about. From there, we can set up a meeting to discuss with you the needs of your student as well as the IEP process. Does that help to answer your question? You're over there. Do you have a follow-up question that
I can help you with? And there's a place on the registration packet for you to communicate. If that is the case, if you have an idea already in place, so that'll sort of trigger the conversation when you submit that.
So the special ed department will be available to support any family with a student on an IEP or any student that you might have concerns about, and we'll help you navigate that process.
Just one other thought to that question. I'm Dr. Barbara Cataldo, and I'm the Interim Director of Student Services. To that question, if you have a child that is currently in the preschool who is on an IEP, there is a process that we have for moving them up. So we're aware of your child already, so that there shouldn't be a gap in anything. But if you want to feel that we're aware of it in advance as well, please call, because what we need is for you to know that we're taking care of your children, and we want you to be comfortable when you drop them off.
Similar question about start time or drop off. Did they? At South. Oh.
Mrs. Boning.
Yeah. So 8:40 is when our first bell rings at South. So as Pierre said, 8:10 their first bell rings. At South, it's 8:40. And then 8:40, 8:50 is our second bell. So that's when sort of kids are in their classrooms and they're all set and ready to go. Yeah.
I think if the kids off, seem like so with her.
It is an adventure every day. So Yep. How do we get them sort of on and off the bus and into the buildings each day? So the first, usually 2 weeks at Plymouth River, and I'm sure that other schools do something similar, each student has a name tag on. And at Plymouth River, each classroom has a different name tag. So for tonight, I'll just use colors. So we might be, red, green, and blue. That way, all the support staff in the building knows what color each teacher is. So as students are getting off the bus, there is just an absolute welcome committee that helps them get from the bus right to where they need to go. For dismissal, and you can speak about how you do dismissal, but at Plymouth River, we have all of our kindergartners in a separate location for dismissal. So we are all in the cafeteria, and we line up by bus line. We have our bus tags on, and then we have a special spot where walkers will wait as well. And Kids in Action is in the cafeteria with us now, which is incredibly helpful because then they go right there. And especially the first few days before they exit the building, there's at least 3 adults that check their tags to make sure they are standing in the correct bus line, and we physically watch them get on the bus. And then fingers crossed, once those doors close, that they remember when they're supposed to get off. Yeah.
No, actually, the bus drivers are amazing. Yeah. The bus drivers are amazing too. They know the kindergartners have to sit in the front of the bus, so they know that they're in kindergarten, and they typically know their addresses, and they have a list, a printout, especially the first 6 weeks of school, I would say, even as far as that. At South, we have a similar routine, and we gather all of the kindergartners in one spot, and they wear name tags, and we have them lined up by bus and escort them out. Even when they arrive, we gather in the gym at first for the first couple of weeks of school in their classroom lines, the 4 different kindergarten classroom lines, and bring them all up. So lots of supervision really is the key. And everybody in the school, other staff members know they're in kindergarten because they're wearing those name tags all day. And I've actually, little antidote, I had a couple of little friends who were being dropped off at South, and they begged their parents to take the bus after the first week of school. So now they just take the bus. So it's just funny. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Yeah. If you're eligible for the bus, then you can. Is it over a mile? Anyone check my fact there? A mile and a half? Right? Over a mile, you're eligible for for the bus to go to transport your child to school. So if that's the case, then you can come anytime on the bus. You just usually it's not a sign up per se, you just look for the bus routes that will come out in August and on the Hingham Public Schools website in August, and then figure out where your street is there, and it'll say bus number 12 goes to these streets and these addresses. So that's how you figure out which bus number you are. But like I said, I've had kids who, I get an email from the parent or a note from the parent saying, blah, 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 will now take the bus home every day. So you can, not a sign up. No. Yeah. You're eligible anytime.
On the districts that each neighborhood gets assigned to a school, those will change in the future if students go to kindergarten, if they stay in the same school, or if that changes, if kindergarten not finish in the same school as well.
Typically, I'm gonna, yeah.
I'm going to phone a friend.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for the question. And just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Katie Roberts, the superintendent of the Hingham Public Schools. I recognize many people in the audience tonight because I'm also a Hingham mom. So many of you are my neighbors. Few of you are my former students, and you do no longer need to call me Miss Roberts now that you are officially a mom or dad of an incoming Hingham student. And so just to answer the question about districting, want to be clear that at this point there is no conversation about redistricting. So you might have seen in the anchor today, we do enrollment studies regularly, and that is not intended in any way to incite any rumors about redistricting. So just wanted to allay everyone's fears about that at this point. So that's something we do every 10 years. We launch an enrollment study, which is just a standard part of the district. Hope that answers your question.
But here once in a while, when you're walking, please walk us more.
So I would say 6%.
Typically I know kindergarten at PRS, when we do dismissal, and same thing if they're actually riding the bus as well, we will not release a student unless they're going directly to an adult. And if they get off the bus, you have to be met by an adult. So no kindergartner is going anywhere by themselves. I would definitely check with, if your child's going to be a walker, check with your neighborhoods. We have a really great community, and typically we've had, neighbors that help walk them. We do have some students that all live sort of in a little cul-de-sac street together, and some of those neighbors, as long as we have authorization from the families, those neighbors that might be in 4th or 5th grade will pick the kindergartner up and they go home together. But age-wise of what, when they can come by themselves and walk by themselves, that's definitely not kindergarten, but I would say, more of a family decision as well, and what you're comfortable with.
One thing that I would add to that is we do have some students who bike to school. We don't recommend that until 3rd grade. In 3rd grade across the district, with our resource officers, they run a really terrific bike safety program. And so we do, for the most part, encourage families to wait to allow their children to bike to school until 3rd grade.
There's a screening in May, and then we start orientation. Is that over the or once
So that screening, yes, is in May, and then the orientation is the day before school. So some of the schools, I think every school does this with the buses. They ride the buses and get kind of, you come to orientation, bring your child, and we have groups of parents and children, and some of the students will go on the bus, and those parents will meet with the principal, and then we'll switch off, and then all of the parents and kids will come into the kindergarten classroom, talk to the teacher, we'll give you paperwork to fill out. You can meet some other students in the class and other parents. So that's typically the day before school starts.
I'm just wondering, are there parent-teacher conferences built into the like parent-teacher nights so that
Oh yeah, we had we had two already. I'm not used to the mic, you know. We had two already, parent conferences, and at that time we go through just the progress your child is making in all those different domains: social, academic, emotional, and then we'll have different nights where we welcome in the parents or for special events that are happening in the classroom throughout the school year. Each kindergarten is a little different in every school with those events, but the parent conferences are on the school calendar that you'll get. Yes. Sure. And you can also, to add to that really quickly, you can also request a conference or a time to meet with your child's kindergarten teacher at any point during the school year, whether it's in person, on Zoom, or a phone call. That's very typical. Yes.
I didn't know you mentioned the lunch in this pack. Is lunch included, or you buy it, or I wasn't sure. Anything?
Yeah, so across Massachusetts, school lunch is free. However, at each of the schools, if the students want to buy an extra lunch or buy a drink or an extra snack, that is a cost. But the basic school lunch is free at this time based on government funding to all students. Free to all students. Yes, yes. Long may it last. Yes. Yeah.
Do they publish this menu, or do you know like there's different options, or how does that work?
They do publish the menu, and I want to assure you as well, they're very allergy aware as well. So if a student, for example, has a gluten intolerance, there are options, different options for students with different dietary needs as well.
Yeah. You mentioned the second one. You try a comment?
This is more from my ninth grader who's 6'2". He buys a second lunch almost every day. But yes, no, do not anticipate that will be happening for kindergarten students. So yes, those hungry high schoolers do take advantage of the second.
You're very disrupted by everything that's going on around us. I'm like, finish your lunch. That's what they eat. Just one chicken on the please.
And you will hear great excitement about the snowflake waffles. Set your calendar for Snowflake Waffle Day. It's a thing. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And the spider ones are.
And the spider waffles, yes. Yeah.
What percentage of families are waitlisted for Kids in Action?
Each school is different. So this year we did have quite a big wait list. So it's hard for me to say how many get in and how many don't. Each of the schools has, I'd say, between 80 and 100 students that attend Kids in Action, and that's K through 5. But they are separated by grade. So kindergarten's not with the 5th graders. They have their own space and they're by themselves. So, sorry, that's all I can say.
What dictates the waiting list? Is it first come, first serve? How early you sign up, or
It is first come, first serve. The Kids in Action families that we have now, they have preference, so that's why they register the week before. And then after that, it's all time stamped from when you register, so we know in what order you applied.
Thank you.
Right, so we do adjust that. The only difference is that if we have to have enough staff to make sure we can cover all the children. So that's it. That's really why there's a waiting list, because we do have plenty of space. It's just a matter of fact of having enough staff.
Well, I know that it's been a long evening for everybody, but just wanted to, wearing my mom hat, ask that you take a minute to mark this moment. So for some of you, this will be the first step in your Hingham Public Schools journey. And I'd like you to just look around the room. in this room, there are some friends that you haven't met yet, that you'll kind of grow along with and parent with. So again, this is a special night for you, and again, some friends that you haven't met yet in this room. So hope you feel very welcome to the Hingham Public Schools, and grateful to all of our educators and administrators who joined us tonight to help us welcome you. Thank you.